Yeah, you need an initial hole. I don't care if my pants get wet. Where's the lid?
Welcome in to Keep It About Ball, bitch.
Just a splash.
Shitbag lizard people.
Bro's QB2 is Aiden O'Connell.
Bucks on Peyton. Actually, when you add up the pick value, when you crunch numbers, who the fuck's Jennifer?
Alright, hey guys, welcome into ZBR. It is me, Zach, by myself tonight. The ZBR thing, tech issues as always. So we're doing the solo episodes this week. We're all basically in rotation for who's taking turns, on tech issues. It was Brady last night. I'm pretty sure the week before it was me. And then, the week before it was me for sure. And then I think like 2 weeks before that, I think Reed had a tech issue. And then it's constant with us, yeah. So hopefully we can get past that soon and get that all sorted out. I know we're real excited about it. I think, knock on wood, either this week or the week after, we will start going live. I am definitely going live, at least for a few minutes from Scott Fishbowl. I can't promise a whole episode or anything, but I'll at least do a short little live over on Facebook. So real quickly, smooth transition there. Make sure you go like the page on Facebook at ZBR Sports. I'll put that in the show notes. That's where we'll be going live from to do live episodes, and I think those are going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you come check those out. If you're just listening as a podcast, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to that as. If you can, drop a 5-star review. That would be sick. And yeah, go subscribe on YouTube too. That would also be badass. Just subscribe everywhere. Maybe not. Don't get sick of us because you don't want to listen to us too much. But I'll quit rambling and get into my list here. And so I guess before I actually count them down, I will say what I ranked all these teams on. So I ranked them on 9 factors, 6 of them statistical, and 3 of them just kind of my personal opinion ranking on 3 of those. So the statistical categories that I ranked them on were Super Bowl wins, Super Bowl appearances, playoff wins, playoff appearances, regular season win percentage, and attendance since 2010. And I know it's just since 2010, but that's when ESPN started keeping track of all 32 teams. Before that, it's just hit or miss on which teams were recording it. It seemed like, I guess I could have done a little more research and to see if there were some websites that had maybe deeper records of the attendance there. And then the 3 categories that were more just opinionated were me ranking the ownership. And I will go ahead and say right now, I'm not going to pretend like I know every team's ownership history. I just kind of ballparked it for some, like kind of roughly like what I know. If like I didn't really know a bunch about them, but it wasn't like they had a decent score otherwise. I'm like, well, ownership can't be that bad. Give them an average score. But, some of the other teams, if I don't know their whole history, but, I know that they're a pretty garbage franchise. I give their ownership a bad franchise or a bad ranking because they suck, obviously. And then I also ranked fan bases, ownership, fan base, and overall history and tradition was the last category. I ranked all those on a scale of 1 to 10. So, yeah, those are the 9 categories. And one other disclaimer I will say, or 2 disclaimers I should say actually. One, I should have juiced Super Bowl wins just a tad bit more. I should have paid more attention to math class so that I could figure out how to give them that without screwing it to where it's just, I don't know, messing it up too much. But it should have given them just a little bit more weight in the metrics somehow. And then also, I should have had a 10th category, and it should have been stadium. And I even thought about that way back when me and Brady were first sitting around talking about potential content. It was during the regular season of the NFL, and we were talking about potential content ideas for the offseason because we knew it was coming at some point. And we talked about doing this rankings list. I remember us saying something about, and then, factor in stadium too. And I think kind of spoiler alert for Brady. I don't know if it's spoiler alert. That's probably not a spoiler alert. But he said last night when we were trying to do this, he didn't really take stadium too much into account into his rankings either. I don't think so. But when we do this again in a few years, I will definitely factor those things in when we update the list. But now I'm actually done rambling about all that, and I will just start rambling about these bottom 8 teams in the league. So starting at 32 with a score of 8.3, my lowest ranked franchise, or NFL franchise, is the Arizona Cardinals, which sucks because I have kind of like a little bit of a soft spot for them. I feel like they're kind of a hard team to dislike, but I also feel like they have like zero passionate fans. I don't know if I think I've met like maybe 2 Cardinals fans, and they were fairly passive. Like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, watching a Cardinals game, like, going to commercial, like, you know, some dude, like, all, you know, like, back when the Redskins were a thing, you know, people would have the headdress, you know, the Chiefs fans go crazy, Raiders fans, you know, wear all sorts of crazy stuff, Bucks fans, even as low ranked, spoiler alert, as I'll get into tonight, as I have them ranked, some of them wear crazy stuff sometimes, just, you know, even the Patriots, whose fans really aren't that crazy, you get some of them dressing up sometimes, and, like, just, I don't feel like you ever see a crazy Cardinals fan. And so I had their fan base ranked pretty low. Attendance has been pretty dog shit since 2010, which the team has mostly been dog shit since 2010, outside of since when Kyler has kind of gotten there. I might be missing the tail end of a Carson Palmer, a couple Carson Palmer years. Actually, I take that back. 2010. I take that back. That was actually, if I'm not mistaken, that 2009 or 2010 was the year of their lone Super Bowl run, which actually gets me to the next part of why they're ranked at 32, is they've had the one Super Bowl run. Outside of that, and their I can't say long history because they don't have a rich history. They have a long history of existing, but there's just not a lot going on in there. They only the one Super Bowl appearance. They're second to last in playoff wins all time. Second to last in playoff wins all time. Third to last in playoff appearances all time. They have the second lowest regular season winning percentage of all time. And like I said, just dog shit attendance. Not much history past the Larry Fitzgerald tenure when they made that one Super Bowl run. I'm going to talk about a couple situations tonight where teams might have got lucky. The Cardinals got kind of lucky that Kurt Warner still had juice in the tank, because he could have very easily, like, how many times have we seen an old guy try to come back like that late in the league, and he's just not, he doesn't got it, and he doesn't even play the whole year. Cardinals, I'm probably wasting too much time on them. Just a dog shit franchise. But I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them to move up. Shout out my guy Kyler, Dynasty QB, top 5 this year, for real. And he honestly, maybe not quite a top 5 Dynasty QB, but I think probably top 8 for sure. But that's a discussion for another day. 31 here moving forward. Score of 9.3. And you can argue that they should be up ahead of the next 2 teams. But I got the Bengals. And I kind of trusted the metrics here on this one, especially once I went back and looked at it here. Just not a lot of rich history. Just, again, like the Cardinals, long-ass history of existing, but just not doing a lot. It was the 80s or the 90s, maybe both. Had a couple of teams that were all right. But just a real lackluster franchise. No Super Bowl victories. They've been around for quite a while. Pretty poor attendance since 2010. They finished dead last, and I forget which year it was. I can actually pull that up right here. The Bengals finished dead last in attendance in 2015 and finished 31st for 3 years in a row from 2016 through 2017 and 2018. They were 31st. And then they were 29th. And even these last couple years where they've had Joe Burrow and they've had reason to be back in the stadium, I think that was when they drafted. I wish the guys were here. Because one of them, I'm sure, would know exactly what year Burrow got drafted. I think it was like 2019 or 2020. 2020, I feel like it was a 2020 draft. I feel like it was 2020. We'll say it was 2020. I might be off by a year on that. and he immediately came in, and you're still 29th, 24th, 22nd. Like, what are you doing here? Come on, like, get in the stadium, show some support. You finally got an actual quarterback, not no fucking Carson Palmer. And no disrespect to Carson Palmer, he was pretty nice there for a while. Joe Burrow is a franchise quarterback, and he's him. Maybe not him, because I guess Patrick Mahomes would be him right now. But Joe Burrow stands to be him. You know what I'm saying? Ranting too much again. A theme definitely of CBR for sure is me ranting. But moving on forward here, score of 9.5. I got Jacksonville. Like I said, you could probably argue Cincy should be there. But to me, Cincy's got 15 playoff appearances since 1968. That's 56 years. Okay, right? And then the Jaguars since 1995, 29 years. That's how long I've been alive. Have made the playoffs 18 times. So they've made the playoffs more times than they've not as a franchise. And so like and just in my lifetime, a Jaguars fan has seen their team make the playoffs more than a 56-year-old Bengals fan has seen their team make the playoffs. And that right there was the real seller for me, especially when I kind of questioned it when I looked at the metrics, and then I went and looked at that, and I was like, no, completely makes sense right now. The Jaguars have better attendance. I would say about the same size fan base, maybe just a little bit better and a little bit more passionate maybe. But yeah, I can't really suck off the Jaguars here too much because they are also still not that great of a franchise. But I don't think that's completely their fault. I think it's just a real lack of history here. And the next team, it's also just kind of a lack of history. Haven't had the time. And I have them ahead of the Bengals again here because kind of a trajectory thing. Same with the Bengals. The Texans also scored 9.5, same as the Jaguars. Gave them the edge over both those teams and trusted the metrics over the Bengals. Because, low-key, the Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson years were pretty good for what was already such a new team, just being around since 2002. They've barely been around for over 20 years. I think a lot of people forget that. I forget that. Until we really honed in on doing this list, and I've really settled in and started ranking these teams and tried to record it like 4 different times now. Or tried to record this like 4, maybe 5 different times now. And I've also, gone through it on my own a few times now. And it's just kind of beaten in my head that they've been around since 2002. I constantly forgot how new of a team they were. But in that time, they've found some pretty good, I don't want to quite say consistent. Not quite consistent regular season success. But they build teams that are consistent for a little bit, and then they go through some really rough phases while they retool. Which, I mean, it seems like every time they retool, they get better. Because, the first time, I guess it wasn't really a retool. It was kind of a tool-up. You get Matt Schaub, Andre Johnson. You kind of get Arian Foster late in there. If they'd have gotten him maybe a few years sooner, had it like a running back like that a few years sooner, one of those teams might have won a playoff game, a couple of playoff games, and maybe made a little playoff noise. I don't think they would have won like an AFC championship. I'm not going to go that far with it. But they might have made it there. Like maybe had like one fun year where Andre Johnson was just on his shit. Arian Foster was on his shit. If we're, hypothetically or saying that they had a running back of that caliber of like prime Arian Foster during those years. Along with I know it ended real bad for Matt Schaub, but he had some real nice years. People sleep on that sometimes. Prime Matt Schaub, maybe not electric, but was a pretty fucking solid quarterback. But kind of went to shit after that. Retooled up with Watson. I don't really know if you can blame ownership for all of that. You can kind of blame ownership a little bit for it because I do think things got tensions between Bill O'Brien. I actually don't know. I don't think. I do know. I've, seen it before and read it before. I know things got tensions between Bill O'Brien because he was coach, he was GM. He had too much power, and he's even come out recently and said, I shouldn't have been GM. It was too much. I should have just stuck to coaching, and things probably would have ended differently there. And I would agree with that. I think that's probably right. and I would probably say the same thing similar for Bill Belichick. But that's a different discussion for when we get to the Patriots, who are still definitely a couple episodes of this away. But I think some fuck you trades were made there, and then everything happened with Deshaun Watson, and they kind of spiraled really hard there, really fast. And went from what looked like a team that was about to contend for AFC championships for years to come, just in that game, maybe not winning them each year, but at least, making it to like an AFC championship on a fairly regular basis. Kind of like what a Cincinnati's looking like right now, where they're just each year people talk about, like, I think they can make the AFC championship, or even think they could maybe even win it. If all that doesn't happen and things stay on track, it's hard to think that doesn't happen at least a couple times the way things were going there for a while, because Deshaun was really good. If things don't get bad with D-Hop, those would have been some really nice teams. But they, that's a bunch of ifs. They fell in some hard times, but now it seems like they got their guy, C.J. Stroud. He looks really fucking good, and they've really gone out of their way to tool up around him. Had an okay defense last year, I think, because DeMeco Ryans is a defensive guy and he's going to pride himself on it. Kind of honing back into Brady's take on their defense from last year going into the season. I think he's going to take some pride in it and that they'll be a little better. And Houston, I don't want to get... It's not an official prediction, but I will say that they have the potential to maybe make an AFC championship game this year. I'm not going to say they could win it, but I think they could do it. But just closing out quickly on them, because I've already spent too much time on them. What put them ahead of Jacksonville was the Texans have actually built, in a shorter time than even just the Jaguars' short time, have built a much better fan base, and they are in a better market to do it. But I see Texans fans all over the place constantly, and their attendance rankings are pretty fucking solid, and even when they're dog shit, they still fill up the stadium quite a bit. So that's why I had the Texans there at 29 going to 28. I got the Lions score at 10.2. Obviously don't gotta explain why they're so low here. Dog shit in the postseason. I can't even say dog shit in the postseason. They just don't have really any postseason history. It's just bad because they're so bad in the regular season constantly. I think what kind of kept them ranked higher than these other teams is their fan base, because shout out their fan base. It's not the fans' fault that the ownership is so fucking terrible, ownership and management, and that they fucked up two players that have serious cases to say that they're the most talented and or gifted players at their position of all time, being Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. I think a lot of people have Barry Sanders as the best running back of all time. I don't have an official list on that personally, but I definitely think if he plays for even 3 or 4 more years, I don't really think it. I think there's a lot less question and a lot more debate on it, because I think it is fairly debatable. And then also Calvin Johnson, man, if he could have had a career, he had like, he just had like things, so many different skill sets, like from all the greatest receivers, and like he had like the nice build, like Randy, pause, no homo. But he had, the tall, muscular, could jump, could get up there, had just like the crazy skill like Jerry, and it was just all around so good, and honestly was with a good quarterback to really harness a lot of those abilities, and just Lions could never do right by either one of those guys, honestly, if we're being honest. Matt Stafford's career right now could have been a lot better if Detroit wasn't such a dog shit franchise, but that is what they are, and that's why they have a score of 10.2, and that is why they are down here so low. Next up, I got the Falcons. So, I could argue, or no, excuse me. Yeah, no, I had the Falcons pretty firmly here. I had some stuff typed up, and because I actually did readjust a little bit here. when I kind of started reading the list out loud the other day, I was like, I'm actually going to change X now. I'm saying it out loud. I had to kind of disagree with it. So, because I think I had the Falcons. Yeah, I had the Falcons higher here above. I think I had them at 26 here. But I swapped them out with the current number 26 team. And this is actually the point where, yeah, that's right. Because this is the first point where I actually switched the results of the metrics here that I ran. Because the next team is actually the lowest ranked Super Bowl winning team. And so I put them ahead because they do have that Super Bowl win. But yeah, I got the Falcons here at 27. Only made a couple of Super Bowls. One of them was really historic, which I do, and I will say on this list, I do give credit for having bad history because that is still history that, the NFL builds on, that, just builds history. Like kind of with the Lions, they're historically bad. Like the Browns, historically bad. But like the Falcons, they're not really like historically bad. They're just kind of bad. And then sometimes they're, kind of consistently mid, I guess, which kind of makes them bad. You know what I'm saying? And so the Matt Ryan years he doesn't get enough credit. We're pretty fucking solid. Especially those early years, like Roddy White, young Julio Jones, gosh damn. And then when Calvin Ridley was actually on the field with older Julio Jones, man, I really thought it was about to be the same thing all fucking over again. And then we all know how that all worked out, 28-3. If they'd won that Super Bowl, that right there alone probably bumps them up, I would say, at least 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 spots, maybe 9, maybe even 9 spots here. But that Super Bowl really killed them. And just a lack of like a deep history, because beyond the Matt Ryan tenure, really, you had the Michael Vick, and fuck Michael Vick. I just want to get that out of the way. Fuck Michael Vick. But strictly on the field, shit was crazy to watch. And honestly, really cool to grow up on, watching football. Madden 04 was always my favorite Madden. And I didn't even really play with Michael Vick that much, but he was a cheat code in that game, yeah. I didn't play with Michael Vick because I created players that had 99 speed at quarterback anyways, just to get, and 99 maxed out stats anyways. And my creative players were, what position? I get off a little tangent here. I always wanted a little brother named, I guess I didn't want him to be named Alexander, but that's what my mom always said he would be named. So I always made the running back named Alexander. And I would always make myself the quarterback, and Reed would always be the receiver. And and there was another kid that we grew up with that was on our football team. I always had him at receiver too. And then I'd have a bunch of our defensive dudes created on linebackers. And then I'd go into franchise mode and move the team over to like Honolulu and shit. It was always the Honolulu Bats, and the colors were black and yellow, but like a different yellow than the Steelers. Oh yeah, shit was so tight. But pardon the flashback there. Got real nostalgic there real quick. But yeah, outside of that, just not a lot of history going on there. And even the Michael Vick history, was it really fun to watch? Yeah, but what did it really accomplish? Sometimes it wasn't even regular season success, let alone playoff success. So, pretty low regular season win percentage all time. That's why they're here. So on the next team, number 26, again, this is where I kind of swapped it out on the metrics. They actually had the same score as the Lions here, the Bucks at number 26 at 10.2, and the Falcons had 11.2 ahead of both those. But the Bucks got the 2 Super Bowls. So I was like, I guess I kind of by default got to give it to them. But the Bucks are my lowest ranked Super Bowl winning franchise. They definitely, I guess, have the better history than the teams before. Just constant mediocrity, or honestly even worse than that, is what keeps them ranked so low, despite their 2 Super Bowl wins and having the greatest quarterback of all time play for them, which I do want to say, and this might just truly be the Patriots hater in me, I'm not saying those teams winning, or that team winning the Super Bowl and then the team being good the next year was lucky, because obviously there was a ton of good players on there. It wasn't lucky. But they were lucky that the greatest quarterback of all time, who still had a ton to offer, was being dicked around by his coach, who is also the GM, and not, I don't want to say dicked around, but was just not on the same page, and things just were not kosher at all, and that he just fell into their lap like that, and that they just happened to be in a situation where, like, hey, we literally have the best situation here. And I mean, shout out to them for having a great situation there for an awesome quarterback to come in and step in. Like, a lot of other quarterbacks could have stepped in, and I don't want to say won a Super Bowl with them, but probably won some playoff games with some of those teams, because those defenses were fucking nasty those years, or fucking nasty those couple of years. They had some really good guys out there, and really, I would say, right at the tail end of their prime. Like I'm thinking like Shaq Barrett, like his last like 2 best years, those years to Tom Brady, like he couldn't have timed them better. So they had some real nice teams, but outside of that, they're just dog shit. Even like right now, like with Baker, yeah, they got some guys there, but the defense isn't what it was even 2 years ago. And they don't look like they're about to make any history anytime soon. It was kind of looking like it was supposed to be their division, but now the Falcons fucking went and got Kirk Cousins, and now it's looking like with all the weapons they got, it might be their division. And then, honestly, I low-key wouldn't sleep on the Saints. I think they're going to be scruffy, maybe. And then the Panthers. Panthers are going to suck, yeah. Let's be real. I think they'll be better than last year, but they're still going to suck. Excuse me, I had to burp a little bit. But yeah, I had the Bucks here. I do want to just one last thing on them. I do want to note they have the worst winning percentage of all 32 teams all time in the regular season. And they are also, I don't even think it's arguable, they're the least fucking popular team in their own fucking state. And the attendance rankings, they validate that completely. So moving on here to the final team for the night, number 25. I got the Chargers. And again, with these bottom 8 teams, you can really kind of shuffle them around. But I put the Chargers here just because I feel like they're steadily have better teams. Pardon my squeaky chair. Just steadily better teams. When I think all-time players, I can definitely, off the top of my head, and I will use this as a point of reference, like, a lot probably in this countdown is, like, especially with these bad teams right here, when you're trying to sort through them, it's like, I can definitely name more, like, all-time, like, great Chargers than I can name all-time great Bucks. Especially if we're not talking, like, Hall of Fame level guys, and even if we are, we can still do that. But just guys that, like, when you think about them, you're like, yeah, that guy had a nice run with those years. Because, like, just starting, like, okay, so I'll start with the Bucks. They're off the top of my head, and I know I'm probably missing some guys because I'm not a Bucks fan outside of the Tom Brady years. I will say, I did kind of shit on the Bucks there a little bit. I do have a Bucks Brady jersey, and I still wear it to this day. Probably, I would say 3, maybe 4 times a month. So I will put that out there. So for the Chargers though, as opposed to the Bucks, like for the Bucks players, off the top of my head, as guys that like just true Buccaneers, all-time greats, I'm thinking Mike Allstat. I feel like maybe there is an early 2000s running back I'm thinking of, but I almost feel like that doesn't exist. I almost feel like I'm even reaching for that. And then you got Mike Allstat. I guess we can say like Shaq Barrett, because I'm pretty sure he was there for a while. Mike Evans, obviously. I'm forgetting one other guy that I know I should have off the top of my head. And I don't think it's Tom Brady, because I guess I kind of got to count him because he brought him one of their Super Bowls, but he only played 2 years there, so I don't really, especially as a Patriots fan, really much think of him like as a Buck. I don't know. I guess I probably should, though, because he did win a Super Bowl with them, and I do have a Bucks Brady jersey, and I don't have a Patriots Brady jersey. But then like moving like back to the Chargers though, want to go like guys there, Doug Flutie, LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Merriman, Antonio Gates, Phillip Rivers, who is that fucking safety? Oh, bet he was a bad mofo. What is his name? I don't have my phone in here. I almost want to go grab that and look it up. It wasn't Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was a running back. Who am I thinking of? Oh, it kind of did it start with an E or a D, or did his last name start or did his last name start with a D? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but there was a badass safety in the early 2000s. Antonio Cromartie. Honestly, Keenan Allen at this point. Keenan Allen turned out to be pretty damn good. Austin Eckler was pretty solid. I wouldn't quite go all-time great. And I wouldn't go say Keenan Allen was an all-time great, but when we're just talking about guys like for a franchise, and I mean now they've got, another franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. They get these franchise quarterbacks. And yeah, I don't know. They're just a more exciting franchise. I think their fan base gets way too much flack, the Chargers, their fan base. I think they're actually a pretty popular team. I just don't think they're that popular in California, which kind of goes back to the Bucs thing, and I roasted them for being the least popular team in their own state, which the Chargers are also. Yeah, they're definitely, within California, I would definitely... I guess I keep forgetting the Raiders are gone. At this point, yeah, they're definitely the least popular. Yeah, 100%. It's not even a debate now, because it's not the Rams. Although I do think their fan base gets a little hyped, their LA fan base. But we'll get into that when we get to the Rams. That's a couple episodes away. And then obviously the 49ers are probably, I would say, easily the most popular team in the state. So, yeah. So it's the same argument there, but, 180 more regular season wins all time. Not that I really factored that in. But about the same length of years, I think the Chargers came into the league 2 years before the Bucs did. Something like that. They both came in the 60s. They have a significantly higher regular season win percentage all time at 50%. I know we don't play for the regular season. We play for the Super Bowls, which is what Tampa Bay has. But I'm not just... To me, there's more to go and goes into being a great franchise all time than just the Super Bowl wins. Because, yeah, the Bucs have the 2 Super Bowl wins. But I've met... Outside of, I guess me... which I am also a goober. Full in all fairness, I am a goober. The only 2 Bucs fans I've ever met are complete goobers. And respectfully, and not saying that I know a ton about ball, but I feel very comfortable in humbly saying that they definitely know less about ball than I do. I remember one of them, it was back in the Jameis Winston days, tried to argue with me that Jameis Winston was better than, I think it was Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I think it was Deshaun Watson. And then going back to the Jameis Winston days in Tampa, when Deshaun Watson was putting up numbers there during those good Houston days I was talking about, it wasn't even a debate. And I remember me and him actually in the lunchroom at work, hollering across, not in a facetious way, but just having a very loud, very adamant, very, very vocal debate about Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston. And not even fantasy. Talking about just on field. Simply on field. He was saying Jameis Winston was better than Deshaun Watson, and it was laughable, and all of his argument was laughable. But yeah, just the Chargers here. Like I said, fan base gets too much flack, and outside of the first 2-3 years when they moved to LA, when they were also dog shit, their attendance really isn't that terrible. It's not good, and I don't even want to quite call it good, or it's not great. It's not good. I don't even want to quite call it okay. but it's not as bad as people act like they're always the worst in the league. It was really just that short stretch. Other than that, they're kind of like a low 20s here. Let me pull this up just so that I'm not talking completely out my ass here for a minute, right? So, looking at them since 2010, they're 21st, 19th, 28th, 22nd, 21st, 14th, 31st, 32nd, 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 10th, 11th, 14th. So, I mean, outside of that 4-year stretch, I suppose, it's not like they're the worst team. They're obviously still not good in attendance, but they're not the worst. And now that they've actually been in LA for, a few years now, team's starting to look a little better. Got some reasons to be hopeful. Attendance is looking like they could turn into, I don't want to quite go as far as say a perennial top 10 team attendance wise, but pretty close. And part of that is the market being in LA too. You'll notice that with a lot of these big cities that they are up there. Like Houston, that's probably part of why they are up there. Obviously, the Chargers is part of why they're up there. And that's obviously part of why the Buccaneers and the Jaguars don't have as great attendance, because they're in teams or in cities like Tampa Bay, who they don't support really the Devil Rays either. Honestly, Florida's just not big on going to sports games. It kind of feels like the Dolphins, they don't have the greatest attendance. Miami, the Heat don't have the greatest attendance, even just going over to the NBA. And I think a pretty notorious moment for Heat fans is or infamous moment, I should say, notoriously infamous, as Stephen A. Smith would say, that fucking goober. I want $25 million a year, ESPN, okay? A fucking head-ass old fucking man walking in with that suit all goobery as shit. Sorry. I really don't like that guy. Gosh, and he made me lose my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Where was I? Talking about the attendance. And the markets. Oh, yeah. And a notoriously infamous moment for the Miami Heat fans. I think it was the Ray Allen shot. I'm pretty sure like half them fucking missed that. It was like that game like where they came back real late, but like everybody had already started leaving with like 2.5 minutes left, and even before that, and like the stands were half empty, and then they were all trying to get back in, but they couldn't and shit. And just for me, that's always just kind of stuck with me, not just about Miami sports fans, but just kind of, I would say, professional Florida sports. At least of the major three. I won't speak on hockey because I don't really know, but just they don't really like show out for it. But yeah, that is why those teams had the lower attendance rankings, of course. But that's part of what makes a good franchise too. It ties into being a good franchise. You got to be in a good spot. For the most part, there are some teams, no spoilers, that make it work despite their location. But we'll get into all of that later. That is my bottom 8 of the 32 NFL franchises. Next up, we will have 24 through whatever number it is. 24 through 17. Yes, 24 through 17 next. Should have Brady and Reed's bottom 8 out for you guys this week as well. And then we got this coming week, we'll have an episode out. Whether or not, probably gonna, it's always gonna be tech issues with us. Probably should just start planning on it. And so I might be back, maybe with the guys. We'll see. Hopefully with the guys. Hopefully it's not my turn, at least for tech issues. I feel like it's probably my turn. It's been a few weeks, so it is probably my turn at this point. So try to have all my shit ready so that it's not me. Because I'd really like to get a live going with the three of us. It'd be really sick. And I think the plan for that will potentially be doing a Scott Fishbowl live draft, a mock draft for that. So I think that would be really fun to get out. And if not, we might do that on call if we don't do it on live. And then we will also knock out the next 8 as well. And then the week after that is Scott Fishbowl. So might try to just make the show out of that, and then maybe Monday night do some recaps. So here in a couple weeks might have put out a couple episodes there. Maybe, like I said, one might just be really short, Make sure you check in on Facebook over there, because that's probably where it's going to be streaming live. But it, of course, will also be here wherever you can, wherever you get your podcast. It will be there as well. So one more time again, please do go subscribe, like the Facebook page, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe there, rate it up, give it the good rating, please, please, please. It really, I know you probably hear it on any other podcast you listen to, and it just sounds like generic bullshit. But the ratings and the subscriptions do really help. They help a lot, and they are very, very, very appreciated. So yeah, if you want more, you can follow at ZBR Sports on Twitter, or you can follow me at Zach Got That Dog on Twitter. And that'll be it for tonight. We'll see you next week. See ya.
Shitbag lizard people.
Bro's QB2 is Aiden O'Connell.
Bucks on paper.
Actually, when you add up the pick value, when you crunch the numbers, who the fuck's Jonathan?